Hi, Shelley Sullivan here from Own Mind Body Spirit, and I'm really glad to be speaking with you today because I've got some exciting topics that we're going to discuss in this new earth that we're in and this heaven that we're creating on earth. Today's a different type of video because I have a guest with me today and we're going to be interviewing, and it's very exciting. My guest today is Joe Ego. He's a spiritual warrior, shaman, magic healer. And he's introduced me to so many amazing experiences, and here's Joe.
Hi, good to meet everybody today. I'm really excited to be here. There's some really magical things to speak about, and I believe everything happens for a divine reason. A lot of people are coming together because they have questions they've always wanted to ask, but they didn't have the courage to do it for a long time. And now that, there are some really big topics that we would like to cover, it's really exciting to get started and share the magic.
So the topic we're going to be talking about today to start with, among a couple of others, is chemtrails. Usually I like to keep my videos very inspirational, but this is going to be inspirational in turn because these chemtrails that are in our clouds causing illness to people, if not killing the crops and some people. But we're going to turn into a positive because we got the power and the healing technology to clear the skies, and we've done it together. And my first experience with Joe was the way I came across where I had the confidence to start healing is I did a meditation, and I was actually hovering above earth healing with some other spiritual beings. And after I came out of the meditation, I realized how real this was. And Joe had been talking to me for months about how he clears chemtrails in California as well as here in Ontario. And I thought, you know what, this can be done. So I went out into the forest myself with my crystal here, my little crystal. It can be little or it can be big. And I actually dissolved the chemtrails falling from the plane right before my eyes. And it was my first time doing it, so I was unsure whether this was my impact and intention. But after practicing more and more, it exactly was that. And if I can do it, you can do it. And I want to talk about how Joe and I went to Fairy Lake and did the clearing, and you can take over.
Definitely. Shelley called me up and said, they're really spraying hard today. Can you come meet me and bring your big crystals? So I was like, sure. So we show up together, and the skies are like, you can see like crisscross patterns. And before we got started, we started to summon angels. Now there's an angel that I summoned called Reiki Angel. For a lot of people that know what Reiki is a form of spiritual healing. And when all your chakras are in balance, you can project light through your body and shoot it through your palm chakras. Now, if you're holding a super crystal or even a crystal of any sort, it'll shoot it through the point. So I'll say out loud, Reiki Angel, increase my flow 144,000 times. Then I start breathing and I start pulling the energy in, and I'll invoke an energy called the violet flame. And I'll start pointing this crystal through the sky at the sun and start clearing away what was blocking the sun. And we kept doing this repeatedly, and just in a few minutes, you can start to see like a huge shift. And what's important is when you're summoning these forces, these angels, and you use the spoken word, it amplifies, especially when you're using a crystal. And it also, they become like your assistants. You can command them. A lot of these beings are out there, looking for people who can tune into them. And when you get into the practice of meditation, you learn how to keep your body clean and healthy. It's very easy to tap into their frequency. So everything's frequency based, and what we're really doing is we're shooting high frequency laser energies that are like ultraviolet into the atmosphere and pushing these particles away, because these chemtrails are actually filled with heavy metals, and these metals linger in the atmosphere. And then they use a really strong frequency called HARP to bounce radio waves off the metal particles, which can alter the weather. And so they use this as a weather warfare, because those who can control the weather, it's one of the most powerful forms of warfare. And back in ancient times, before anybody got into using that kind of technology, people were doing magic. And they knew how to alter the weather, they knew how to do a lot of that stuff. But over time, people gotten so dumbed down by these technologies used against us, and they were taught that this magic is not real. So we're proving it time and time after again. And when you have a high level of faith, anything is possible, anything's magical. So you create reality like that.
Yep, and I just want to mention that when he speaks about the higher spiritual beings that are available to help us, the more that we raise our consciousness, and Joe and I are both on that mission to raise our consciousness via mind, body, spirit, the higher your frequency, the more easy they can relate with you. And they're eagerly waiting to help us. So we just have to call upon them. And you can do your research. There's archangels, ascended masters, higher selves, spirit guides, etc. So there's many forces waiting to help and heal. And they send me messages constantly in depth now, like I'm working with them daily, if not by the minute. And they're always showing me signs, symbols, numbers through technology, and I'm going to be writing in depth about that in my book, how they're just waiting to assist you as well. Joe's doing such an amazing job. He spends his time, energy, and money, and he travels to Mount Shasta, which is in California, and he heals the skies regularly because there's an emergency situation out there. So Joe, tell us more about that.
I like to tell people I do shamanic magic, and I've had somebody tell me something back a couple months ago that would trip me out, and I said, okay, if this is true, I'm going to go to Mount Shasta and see what I can do to affect the weather. So I spent my birthday there, February 19th. I spent a whole week there, and my intention was to go to LA for a week right after and bring rain. And the week that I went there after, it rained hard during the Oscars for 3 days. I was like, whoa, that was pretty easy. I was just at that sacred mountain absorbing all this energy and putting that intention out there to do it. And so each time I've been there, it's worked every single time. So people actually start to go, there's this guy that comes in here, he absorbs this energy and he uses these crystals to affect the weather. I don't see anyone else doing anything like that, but I'd like to teach more people how it's completely possible. You activate yourself and you could be surprised what else you can do. It's an amazing time right now for people to understand, there is crowdfunding movements that people, they want to support those that are doing something, like going out of their way to do something magical, healing people, and there's so much information that people can share to support each other. Turn off the TV, tune into something like this, and share your story with other people. People want to experience magical things. Come and join it. Come and find it for yourself. Like sometimes it may be hard to believe at first, but when you experience it, yeah, it's completely different.
What really brought us together was I went to a walk relay for cancer, and I don't usually support the cure for cancer. I'm more into preventative, but it got me thinking that Canadian Cancer Society raised $50 million that year, and I thought, what if we could raise this type of money for preventative disease? And while I was writing my blog, I got an email at that moment on chemtrails, and I was guided to talk about this because we need to raise money to make awareness of this. Whether it's money, awareness, and healing, that's what we need to do to start healing Earth and humanity, because disease is setting in because of this, and we can make a difference here. So, you know what? I spend so much time cleansing and keeping my vessel clean. When I walk outside with my dog and I look up and there's a plane right over my house dropping chemtrails, it's not cool. So let's get together and make some changes here. If you don't have a crystal with you at this time, you can still go out there with your intention, thoughts, and emotion, and you can heal the skies. There's a guy who has a YouTube video out, which I came across when I was early learning about this, and he stood there and filmed his intention, and he cleared the cloud. So anyone can do this.
This is a very special time to be on the planet. This is like a big galactic battle. And the battle usually starts inside of us. So if we know how to master that, then we can go out there and fix a lot more things and do the real magic. Create events and go out there and even just in parks and show people how these crystals work, and then book appointments for, showing people like, look, do you want to be activated? This is how this technology works. And here's like little samples. You can take water right now, watch this. You can point energy into the water. You can see how that shifts. So like say, look, people have the ability to use these kind of tools and to heal other people if they want to be on this path, and to make more videos to show people, there's a lot of information about these tools, maybe get a book about it that we're developing, or, it's really important to train people, like to create like an army of awakened, activated superhumans, and show people, there's secrets that have been kept from us for a while, and there's a movement out there of self-improvement.
And something that he just mentioned that I wanted to mention in this video was I witnessed Joe, after he did a cleansing on me, he took me into a darker area of the house and he asked me if I could witness him shape-shifting. Joe shapeshifted before my eyes into 9 or so different incarnated beings, and they were an Indian, a healer, a Chinese healer, and this kind of went through 9 different beings, and they were ancient, you could tell. But one thing that never changed was his eyes. I witnessed this, and at the time, I totally knew this kind of stuff happens. When I got home, I was totally freaked out what I had witnessed. But Joe shapeshifted before me, and it wasn't scary at all, and it was actually amazing. And if I could get that on camera, that would be great. But you know what? If we can't get it on camera, if you ever want to meet him in person, he'll show you that we have been back and forth in many different lives, many different times.
But then there's certain things that science can't explain. I was like, how do those guys do that? How do these masters, like have that superpower? So, and they started to tell me it's about meditation. I was like, when I was a kid, all these people kept telling me, you need to meditate. I'm not here to tell you who you are yet, but you need to do that. One day you're gonna remember. And I was just like, I don't need to meditate. That looks like something so boring for old people. But when I learned that you can actually harness superpowers from it, I was like, whoa, what else am I gonna do to make this power stronger? So I started going to these sacred sites, I started getting the crystals, started eating certain foods, and I just feel like I'm a super magnet, and I want to share that with other people because it's like, look, I used to be skeptical too, and I always wanted to change, have these superpowers. I didn't think it was real, but all of a sudden something changed in me, and now my whole life is a 180 shift. So it's completely natural to think that way, and most people will naturally think you're crazy if they don't understand what you're doing. But like the deeper you get into it, and the more patience you find to unlock these abilities, yeah, it's crazy. Like there's a lot of people out there that can do flips. What happens if you can do a flip where it's like you're levitating? What happens if you have these powers where you can actually affect like large areas? Like most people don't understand how these powers can be cultivated because they don't have the patience and they don't have the self-control to do it. But once in a while, they're like, you know what? I just want to change because I am so fed up with doing this, feeling like going insane, going through like the same cycle. I want to change my life. I want to go through transformation. And that's why I'm such a big fan of like people experiencing shamanic healing and just complete alteration of consciousness. Because literally, you sometimes think to yourself, when you look at yourself from a distance, you're like a fly that's stuck on a window and you're trying to get out. But then if you see yourself from another perspective, and you can see that the window is open somewhere else, you're like, how come I was stuck on that the whole time? I didn't see myself from that perspective. Now I see myself bigger than what I used to think. And now I can go out there and share that story with other people. It's like saying to yourself, look, you may think you're just like a little cell in a body, but what if you see yourself as a galactic body? It's all about perspective and how you, and what relationship you have to that. And what keeps you connected to all that? It's this vibration of love. So it's important to like clear that energy. It's important to, it's important to suffer sometimes too, because that makes you appreciate how much more you want these things that will end suffering. So if people didn't suffer, they wouldn't appreciate this like coming to Earth. Why did we come to Earth? We came to Earth to learn how to evolve spiritually. We're so disconnected from the source. How do we find a way back? There's a term a lot of people talk about called starseed. So a lot of kids that are born now, they say they have ADHD. Actually, that means attention out of the higher dimensions, and they're just really bored, and they need to find a way to exercise their abilities. So it's important. The starseed, what is it? You come to Earth. Your mission is to remember who you are, where you came from, what your true mission is, and how to be heart-centered during the time you're here, because this world's loaded with crazy amount of illusions. So for a lot of these people who are star-born, yeah, they bring abilities from other worlds. And for those that are open-minded reincarnation, yeah, you're talented. Why? Because maybe in your past lives you were a master at that. So how do you bring that back now? How do you remember these things? Well, you got to learn to separate yourself from the illusion that tries to trick you that you're not powerful. That's why I like understanding things like astrology. There's a reason why certain institutions like Christianity don't want people to know about that. Because once you understand your connection to the universe, why would you need religion? They don't want people to understand about reincarnation either. They just want to tell people like, that's... So we have to get past the illusion, and we have to understand, all these systems that are crumbling is because the truth vibration is getting stronger. And it's important, this is a really important time to be on this planet. It's a really important time to talk about these topics. It's really important to see how you fit into it. Everyone makes a humongous difference, and don't be afraid of what's to come, because the only thing that's keeping us in that shadow is the lack of light, which is information. So be that light. No matter how dark it gets, you have that inner power from within.